Welcome back to the Sharing English podcast, where we explore stories from the English-speaking world, spoken slowly and clearly for curious English learners like you. Let's get started. Hey everyone, it's your host Freya. Imagine this. You're sitting in a room surrounded by cameras. Your family, friends, coaches are next to you. Millions of people are watching. You've spent years working toward this moment. You're expected to be one of the first players chosen. But then, the minutes pass. Other names are called, and you're still waiting. This is the NFL Draft. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about what the draft is, why it matters so much, and how players get there in the first place. If you've listened to my episodes on American football or the Super Bowl, this is the part of the story that happens before all of that, the moment where new players enter the league. Let's start simple. The NFL Draft is an annual event where teams select new players, usually from college or university football. Each team takes turns choosing players, and those players then join that team. You can think of it as a selection system that brings new talent into the league. The draft exists to keep the league competitive. In many sports around the world, teams can simply buy or sign the best players. But in the NFL, the system is designed to give weaker teams a better chance to improve. So, the team with the worst record picks first. The strongest teams pick later. And the team that won the Super Bowl picks at the end. This helps balance the league and keeps competition interesting. Now let's talk about something many new fans don't realize. The draft is not just one night. It's the result of a long process. College players first have to declare for the draft. This means they officially announce that they are leaving college and entering the NFL. Some players even choose to skip their final college games, especially bowl games, to avoid injury before the draft. Usually, this happens when a college player has finished all of their years of eligibility playing for university, which could be 4 or 5 years when they graduate maybe, but sometimes players choose to leave college earlier. Next, some players are invited to special showcase games like the Senior Bowl or the East-West Shrine Bowl. These games bring together top college players and allow NFL teams to watch them more closely. Standing out in a game like this gives players a chance to raise their draft stock, especially if they didn't have a lot of attention to start with. Then comes one of the most famous parts of the process, the NFL Scouting Combine. This is where players are tested in speed, strength, agility, and overall athletic ability. They also participate in interviews with teams. So it's a mix of physical performance and personal evaluation. Teams don't just look at talent. They also want to understand the player as a person. So players meet with coaches and team managers. They answer questions, talk about their experiences, and try to show they are ready for the professional level. After all of that, we finally get to the draft itself. Teams take turns making their selections. When it's their turn, they are on the clock, meaning they have a limited amount of time to choose. Then the pick is announced, and the player officially becomes part of that team. Many players attend the event in person, walking on stage and putting on their new team's hat, and even holding up a team jersey with their name put on it. And yeah, all of that happens immediately in the background once a team pick is made. Before we talk about the emotional side of the draft, let's go over the basic structure. The NFL draft takes place over 3 days. Day 1 is the first round and perhaps the most exciting round, with the best players of the draft usually chosen. Day 2 includes the second and third rounds, and day 3 includes rounds 4 through 7. In total, there are 7 rounds, and each of the NFL's 32 teams gets 1 pick in each round, although trades can change this. Altogether, around 250 to 260 players are drafted each year. That might sound like a lot, but thousands of college players are eligible, so only a small percentage are actually selected. Now here's where things get really emotional. At the beginning of the episode, this is what I was describing. Some players are invited to attend the draft and sit in a special area, often called the green room. These are usually players expected to be chosen early in the first round. But sometimes things don't go as planned. A player might be predicted to go in the first round and then not get selected. They sit there waiting. Cameras are watching. Other players' names are being called, and they're still there, sometimes for hours, sometimes into the next day. It can be awkward, it can be emotional, and it's happening in front of a global audience. This is one of the most human parts of the draft, because behind all the analysis and numbers, these are real people experiencing a life-changing moment. And it's one of the reasons many players are declining invitations to sit in the green room, preferring to stay home with their families and friends and have a viewing party. What happens next? Once a player is drafted, they sign a contract with their new team. Rookie contracts are usually set by the league, especially for early picks, so there isn't as much negotiation as in some other sports. After signing, players attend rookie training camps, team practices, and preseason games. This is where they begin competing for a spot on the team. Now, not being drafted does not mean the end of the road. Players who aren't selected in one of the 7 rounds of the draft can still sign with teams as undrafted free agents. These players can choose which team to sign with, which is something drafted players don't control. And sometimes undrafted players go on to have very successful careers. Now, why do fans care so much about this NFL draft? Because the draft is about the future. A single player, especially a quarterback, can completely change a team. Fans spend months analyzing prospects, watching highlights, listening to podcasts, and predicting who their team will choose. It's a moment of hope. If you're new to American football, I encourage you to check out my earlier episode focused entirely on the game of football. But here are a few key positions and positions that often go early in the NFL draft. Quarterback. This is the player who leads the offense and is often the most important player. Or wide receiver. This is the player who catches passes from the quarterback. And defensive players who stop the opposing team often go high as well. There are a couple more positions on the offensive line. These are the players who protect the quarterback and create space for other offensive players to move once they have the ball. These players also often go quite high in the draft. Some years, the draft is especially strong in one position, like quarterbacks. I've heard predictions that the next draft in the year 2027 is a good quarterback draft. And these types of things create even more excitement, especially if your team needs the positions that are strong in this year's draft. The draft has multiple rounds, but the first round gets the most attention. These are the top players, and expectations are very high. You might hear terms like number 1 overall pick. This is something that follows a player throughout their career. Or first round pick. Or top prospect. These players are expected to have a big impact quickly for their new teams. Now, the draft might be exciting, but it's not perfect. Some people question the system because players don't choose their team. Predictions can be wrong, and players can fall much lower than expected. And fan bases can have a lot of criticisms for their team based on who they pick. And of course, there's the pressure of being evaluated so publicly. Before we wrap up, let's go over a few key terms you heard today. Draft. Draft is a selection process. We use it here to talk about drafting players for a sport. We also use it when it comes to the military. Some countries have a military draft where people's names are chosen to serve in the military. A pick is a team's choice for that round. A prospect is a player entering the draft. On the clock means it's time for a team to make their decision. Trade is exchanging picks or players. And franchise is a team organization. Now let's put it all together. The players chosen in the draft are the ones you'll see later during the regular season, in the playoffs, and hopefully even in the Super Bowl. This is where their professional journey begins. The NFL is growing internationally, especially in Europe and Latin America. More fans are watching games, and more games are being played outside the United States. The draft is a great place to start if you want to understand the league, because it introduces the players who will shape its future. In future episodes, I'll also be starting a mini-series exploring each NFL team, their history, culture, and fan base. So this is just the beginning. In closing, the NFL draft is about more than just choosing players. It's about hope, pressure, opportunity, and the future of each team. And for the players, it's one of the most important nights of their lives. So now I'm curious. Does your country have anything like a draft system in sports? Or do teams build their rosters in a different way? Let me know. Thanks for listening to the Sharing English podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a rating or review, and share the podcast with a friend who's also learning English. You can find out more about me and the podcast at our website, www.sharing-english.com. New episodes of the Sharing English podcast are available weekly wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, let me know, what topics are you interested in hearing more about? Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep sharing English.